Oh, yes, you can. But when you have the equal data and more, hopefully, not just faith, which is not a quantity that we actually feel is good in an engineering department, because we don't want that those minute tolerances to be based on faith. We want those minute tolerances to be based on precision. You wouldn't take off in a 747 or something when I said that the metal stress fatigue had been measured on faith. You wouldn't step in that airplane. You wouldn't want to. You wouldn't risk your life. And so, you want those engineers to be totally precise. And that's what we want in a university. We want precision. If faith is precise, fair enough. If it isn't, then we have to, put it aside in order to get something more precise. One last point I want to make sure. There was a thought. Recently, they had one of those shuttle things crashed. Everyone was killed. Some nice people on that aircraft. And it turned out that there were some little problems of the heat shield, tiles or something that hadn't been checked properly, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. And that caused total disintegration of this vehicle. And so those things, everything has to be so precise in these worlds. Well, we're in the same university campus as those people. We can't have a chip for your computer that's malfunctioning. You're going to have a crash in your computer. No one's going to tolerate that. And no one, just in the field we're in, people tolerate anything, but it shouldn't be. Yeah, what's your point?
I was just wondering about Herod, the father.
Yeah, I'll get back there. I haven't gotten back there. I want to finish my aside, and I'm going to get back there. I'll get you in a minute. So as far as why it's so important, what we were talking about, to know this little bit of information and why that has been transformed. Because, for instance, we get Herod, king of the Jews, looking to kill Jesus. So right away, someone's sensibilities, look, the Jewish king wants to kill Jesus. Baby Jesus is trying to be killed by the Jewish king. So immediately your sensibilities are affected. Oh, negatively. Until you, I'm not against the Arab or the Greek people, but when you find out that you have a colonial situation where a king has been imposed against the will of the native population, that has an effect on the way you look at the situation. And then, in fact, all this hostility or negativity evaporates. But the people who wanted that hostility, and I believe that they did, because they suffered from those issues themselves. If you read Eusebius, you'll get a dose of it. He really hates Jews. I mean, he hates Jews. He's Greek. And, he revels in the fact that they eat their children during the siege. He loves it. And he's supposed to be a person full of brotherly love and charity. The guy is totally insane in terms of the hatred that he suffered. Not even aware of it. Yeah, what is your question?
So Herod mainly was uncircumcised and did not keep
No, you're way ahead of me. Let me finish my presentation, because those kind of questions we're not at Herod yet. We're on his phone.
Yeah, the father.
Well, so you're way ahead. So this person is the intermediary in this process, and as Pompey storms Jerusalem with the help of collaborating Jewish groups too. And if you study the history carefully, you'll see that there's two brothers of the native Maccabean dynasty, that was a nationalist dynasty, that are fighting each other for control. The younger brother is more popular. The older brother is the high priest. He is basically thrown out by his younger brother, and that high priest therefore is involved with Herod's father as one of his operatives, or someone he uses for, or is used by him for relations with this Petra place. So this Herod's father is clearly related in some way by marriage to this royal family of Petra, as well as the coastline. And so he's, in this sense, I think he's more Arab, if you want to put it that way, than anything else. By this time, I think you start to become a lot of these people Arab, though not completely. So you're asking to be circumcised. I don't know if he's circumcised. I wasn't there. I assume he would have had his son circumcised, perhaps. I didn't undress him, so I really don't have any idea. And Paul, you see, is very worked up about the issue of circumcision, so maybe that was an issue for him at the time. I have no idea. But those who wanted to be Judaized obviously would have made a pretense of circumcision, but those who have not been born that way might not have been. So we don't have records about that. But anyway, to go back to our subject. So when the Romans take over, they destroy the Maccabean family, basically, take the one in chains to Rome, as I told you. And the second thing is, the first Roman governor after the generals depart is Herod's father. And so we now have a situation of foreign control, colonial control, of unpopular government over a people that's very obstreperous and extremely zealous in certain religious matters. And this new government is not going to measure up to their standards. We get an indication of that even in the New Testament with John the Baptist, who's clearly a popular, charismatic leader. Now, he is Jewish from the countryside of some kind, out in the wilderness like the Dead Sea Scrolls people. And he loses his head in some manner in struggle with the Herodian family. It's some abstruse legal issues are put in the New Testament story, but those are not backed up in Josephus' presentation of the material. As I told you before, Josephus in the Antiquity says that John was killed because Herod, and by this time all the Herods are calling themselves Herod. The reason is, like Caesar, they model themselves on Caesar, like the way Kerry's modeling himself on Kennedy. He even calls himself JFK, because the initials of his name are JFK. Herod saw Caesar as the pattern of a person who rose and made his family into kings and emperors. And after that, they were all called Caesar. So all Herods are being called Herod in Palestine ever after the family, after the family takes real control. And the family's taking real control here between the 60s and the 30s. That's when they're taking real control. So all this is just prior to the birth of Jesus, but not maybe to the birth of Jesus' parents. And certainly we don't know about Joseph, because in fact Joseph isn't even supposed to be the father from what the documents we know present. So we can zero more in on the mother. The mother has a Maccabean name, Mary or Miriam. She's